First of all, what we've done is we've taken and made all of our products out of very, very solid powder-coated steel. That way it can prevent your dog from chewing at it in any way. We've gotten rid of any of the corners that could actually cause harm to your pet. And we have also included on every one of our pet products a very heavy-duty stainless steel spring. The purpose again of that spring is to help prevent chewing. One thing you're going to notice about our products is the cord and normally is inaccessible to pets because it comes out the back of the product. So for most installation purposes, it remains unseen. How do you put this together? And to do that, we need to talk about the parts and the tools that you will need. Just as a review again, the Hound heater doghouse furnace will come with a Hound heater and then a heat shield that will go above your Hound heater, which serves a couple of purposes I'll talk a little bit later. Now if you have an igloo style doghouse, you're going to want to order one of these brackets. They're on my website as well and many of my retailers. But this is very important when you install the Hound heater doghouse furnace into an igloo style house. And basically what it does, it kicks the bottom out so the Hound heater sits vertical, which is important for its use and for it to work the best. I'll just set that aside for now. And now I'll just go over the tools. You don't need much. All you need is either a 1 1/4 inch spade bit, or in this case I have a 1 1/4 inch hole saw. Both can be found at any local hardware store. I prefer the hole saw, but they both work just fine. The purpose of this is going to be making room for the end of the cords so the plug goes through very, very easily. Another thing you're going to need is a simple tape measure or ruler, a little bit of tape, and 3 1.5 inch long screws. This is what you're going to use. I prefer a wood screw because most doghouses are wood. If you use plastic, I would then go to a nut and a bolt, because again, it's plastic and you want to make sure that it's held up very securely. The last thing that you're going to need, or the last couple of things, is you're going to need a Phillips bit or a Phillips screwdriver, and then a couple of short screws for the heat shield. I like to do things quickly and I like to do things easily, so I'm going to use a drill for drilling the hole, and I'm also going to use a drill for the Phillips head. So when I mount everything up, it's going to go quickly, smoothly, and a lot less labor on my part. I'd like to show you something, a little tip that I found works very well with the Hound heater. I like to preset mine, and the reason I do is oftentimes in doghouses we can't get into them very easily if the top doesn't come off, or we can't see inside the doghouse very well. And so what you can do is you can literally preset the Hound heater. If you look on the side here, what you have is just a little mark sticking out. And that mark corresponds to the readings that are on the Hound heater dial itself. Now when the Hound heater is completely off, it's in this position. It's not actually at the off mark, but as I turn this up, all of my Hound heaters are set slightly past medium. Now you may or may not be able to hear this, but there's a little click. And that little click indicates that the Hound heater is now coming on. I live in central Minnesota, and my dog houses are all stay at 55 degrees all winter long, or very close to that. And the reason they do is because that's where I am set. When I have puppies, I will turn it up and I will keep it around 80 degrees. Now, every doghouse is going to be different, and depending on how big the doghouse is and the outside conditions, how well it's insulated, how good the door is, will depend on how hot you can actually get that doghouse. Something else to remember is when the Hound heater comes on, it is running at full power. Turning it up higher will not make it get any hotter any faster. So when this machine comes on, it will run at 150 watts of pure heat until it reaches the desired temperature. Again, at this mark, it's about 55 degrees. All right, let's begin the process of installation. First of all, my house is, it's a sample house, but again, I have a removable top, which I'm gonna take off to give me access. Now, if you don't, what you can do is you can take and do all the work from the outside, and then you're going to have to be able to get inside that house to put in those 3 screws and pull that cord through. So I'm going to take the top off and I'm going to work in this back corner, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Okay, why am I working in this corner? Well, I want to be as far away from that door as I can be, and the reason is I'm going to create a warmer area in here. Some people will have very large houses. Well, the Hound heater is not made for houses over 32 cubic feet. If it gets especially really cold out in Minnesota like we have. And so what a lot of people will do is they will put a divider that doesn't come all the way across, but it'll come out acting like a windbreak, and the dog can go around that, and they can, that's where they can sleep. You've cut down the area to heat, and the Hound heater has to work less, and it'll stay warmer. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to find a spot that we're going to drill the hole for the cord. That's probably the most difficult part of this whole process. Now, what you'll notice when you open this up, it tells you to measure down 11 inches and over 7. That's an approximate amount for your cord, and so you get a good height of your Hound heater. But again, that will all change depending on the doghouse and the size of your doghouse. Now, if you don't want to use the template, again, you just measure down approximately 11 and over 7 and make a mark. Where that spot is where you're going to drill your hole. Now, my template is made to go in the right side of the doghouse, my right, excuse me, but it can also go on the other side by simply flipping this over. Now you can tape this down, or you can simply go and make your mark, as you can see the spot through here, and all it has to do is be approximate. So I make my mark, and now it's time to get my drill. All right, I have my 1 3/16, 1 1/4 hole saw ready. Again, a spade bit will work just fine. And now I'm going to drill my hole all the way through the doghouse and then examine the hole. All right, the hole has now been drilled, and what I'm going to do is carefully feed the cord through the hole. I've already examined it to make sure that the hole doesn't have any sharp edges. There's no way there's any metal in there, anything that can damage my cord. And so now I'm going to feed the cord through. And I always want to be gentle anytime I'm working with cords, because electricity and things being pulled apart don't work very well. So I will feed the cord through, and then it'll be time to mount the Hound heater. So I'll get the cord all the way through, and then I like to line up the Hound heater just to see where I'm at before I put in the screws. Hound heater looks like it's going to sit just beautifully in this corner. It's now time for the final step of the installation process, a very simple one, simply putting in 3 sturdy wood screws. I prefer wood screws that are about 1.5 inches long, and you only need 3. You'll put 2 on this side and 1 up here. When that's done, it's just a matter of simply turning on your Hound heater and letting your pet enjoy the warmth. That's all that's to it. And now the Hound heater is installed very, very firmly. All right, we now have one final thing to do, and again, it's a very, very simple process. What we're going to do is we're going to put the heat shield directly above the Hound heater, about 1 inch away. This does 2 things. One, it keeps your pet from touching the top. Now, the top gets very hot, but very hot is like very, very hot water. If your pet was to touch it, it cannot get scalded. It's going to say, oh, that's hot, but not hot enough to do any damage. So 1, it prevents that. 2, it also prevents things from dropping on top of the Hound heater. Again, not a fire hazard because it doesn't get hot enough. That 160, 170 degrees is going to constantly radiate out, but it's not hot enough to be a combustible. It actually won't even melt plastic at that point. So what I'm going to do is simply run 2 short screws, wood screws again work best, put the heat shield approximately 1 inch above the Hound heater, directly above it. Put 1 in. Install the second one. I stand behind my product 100%. I have a rock solid guarantee because I know the product works. With over 30,000 sold and never any problems, I'm there to help people, and I know it's a good product because I use them myself, as do all of my friends.